world of 12 years later. Now what? Coffee! Uh-oh. Who are you?
Rumor has it, Angie-chan, that you jumped off the top of the skyscraper.
The groupies were getting annoying, so I thought I'd give them the slip. Angie and an old gentleman wearing an expensive suit were alone in a massive modern conference room. All of the newest machines for presentations were installed there, but they didn't upset its refined and composed atmosphere, and that alone was enough to make the business-like theme of the room abundantly clear. However, that didn't matter at all to Angie. She carelessly sat on a high-class chair that executives making a salary of several 10 million yen probably sat in, looking aloof from the world. It's because I knew they were remodeling on a lower floor and had a safety net out. Angie talked about it like it was no big deal, but in reality it had been a miracle among miracles. To think that she'd shot through several layers of safety netting for the remodeling project, been caught in a multicolored banner adorning the atrium and slipped off, only to be softly caught by a final banner, land on the ground without a scratch, and then briskly leave that place. It put Hong Kong movies to shame.
Well, you knew that wasn't it or not. This is a 200-meter tall super skyscraper we're talking about, right?
I can't give this guy a serious voice. He just looks like a complete idiot.
If things hadn't gone as you planned, there'd be a mess to deal with now.
I figured that if I died, then I'd be dead and that would be that, more or less. Well, still I was testing my luck a bit. Call it youthful zeal. As though saying that she'd had enough of that topic, Angie shrugged coldly. Also, what characters are we going to have here? Ushiro Miyaifa, after being repeatedly hospitalized because of psychogenic stress. She has already died in the world of 1998 due to acute heart failure. She lived her later years in isolation with no one to understand her and is the only survivor from Rokkanjima. The media gave her the name Queen of Suspicion. She continued to make reckless expansions of her business just like Kinzo had done in the past, even though it was completely unnecessary because she was rich as fuck, but whatever, which earned her many enemies. By her late years, she was doing it merely to harass people as if she enjoyed it rather than for financial gain. And it was all done for the sake of Angie, who would eventually succeed her. Ushiro Miyaifa, even after throwing herself off the top of a skyscraper, she miraculously survived unharmed. After that mystical experience, she threw away everything and went on a journey by herself to learn her past. Can she break through Beatrice's magic from her position 12 years in the future? Okay, and then here we have these. And then I guess we have this. Huh? Okay, that's the same. That's the same. What is she doing here? Ushiro Maria, a little magician who has inherited the black blood from Kinzo. Unlike Kinzo, she was gifted with talent. I don't know. It sounds so mean-spirited saying it like that. Unlike that fucking douchebag who can't even... I don't know. You know, I don't know. Unlike Kinzo, she was gifted with... Something about that's funny to me, and began to tread the path of the magician from a young age. However, her power is still weak, and she hasn't yet graduated from an apprentice's level. Yeah, can't even summon a rabbit out of a hat. However, she is skilled with enchantments, which bestow magical power upon objects, and the magical items she creates are all masterclass. Have we read this before? It kind of rings a bell, but maybe I'm just confusing with something else. Then there's she again, Witch of Miracles. To defeat Beatrice in her game, she threw in a piece called Angie. The Voyager witches who cross the Sea of Fragments are beings far superior to the witches who cannot leave their own territories. While they may be on an even footing inside this territory, her true magical power far surpasses that of Beatrice, what is sought by those witches who repeatedly voyage in an attempt to escape boredom. Guess I'm gonna read everything. Seems like there's new text. The Witch of Certainty who has lived for 1,000 years. She thinks of Beatrice's game as a birdcage enclosing Berncastle. Her goal is an eternal tie. She'll ally with Beatrice as a general rule, but she'll support Bettler when it looks like he's about to resign. Okay. So, which she's probably doing so it becomes an eternal tie. Then when it looks like Beatrice is about to be cornered, she'll start supporting the witch again. The willpower of certainty is far stronger than the endless, which just repeats over and over idly. Beatrice, the endless witch who has lived for 1,000 years, she's known for being exceptionally cruel even among witches. She loves bullying the weak and is capable of using trial and error endlessly to find the cruelest fate they can possibly be given, and she toys with her victims even further by piling on one after another. This witch is extremely powerful, but what is it that sometimes she becomes obsessed with creating certain... I think we've read that before. And Angie, the endless witch who will live for 1,000 years in the future. Or perhaps she's a hunter of witches who will fell them all. Witches cannot be felled if they are not understood. Witches cannot be felled even if they are understood. To understand witches and yet deny them, only this contradictory power gives her the blade with which to fell witches. That has always also confused me. I mean, she appears now next to Battler to help him win in a game that is supposed to deny the existence of witches, but she says that she is a witch. So wouldn't she also kill herself if she wins the game? I don't even know anymore. As though was saying that she'd had enough of that topic, Angie shrugged coldly. Seeing that, the old gentleman, who was looking at the world below through a crack in the blinds, cackled.
So you were testing your luck, is that it? My, you're truly akin to son's grandchild. But no, I have to trust your life to chance. The chairman was also a woman who could stake her life on a bet like there was nothing, so maybe this really is do shit of me a blood at work. You really will make it big in the future. Please let me be blunt. Why not give up this running away from home act and return to the Sumadera family?
I heard that Mom had a bad relationship with her family. I don't want to go to the house of people I first met at a funeral. The Sumaderas are Mom's family. They are an old family from Kyoto, and compared to Mom's frank attitude, unbelievably strict. So from Mercuria, I guess, the only Sumadera I'd been on good terms with was Grandpa, who was living apart from his family under the guise of retirement. Mom kept in touch with him too, but she avoided the rest of the family completely, almost hostilely so. So when I went out to play with the Sumadera family, it was always Grandpa's house I visited. When I was young, I didn't really understand it, but I hear that Grandpa was in an extremely weak position as a man who had moved into his wife's family register, and his relationship with Grandma was also bad. You might even say that Grandma hated him and confined him to the house. What? It isn't hard to imagine that, because she had a soft spot for Grandpa alone. Mom was also hated by the... Well, it isn't hard to imagine that because she had a soft spot for Grandpa alone, Mom was also hated by the Sumaderas. Since I was her daughter, they probably hated me quite a bit too, and yet they appeared for the first time at Mom's funeral, shamelessly going on about how big I'd gotten, like they could actually act like family after all this time. When Aunt Eva died, I would inherit all the wealth of the Yoshidomiya family. If that wasn't what they were after, there's no way they would have been able to say such disgusting words.
It's not as though I can't understand your desire for self-abandonment now that you're all alone.
This isn't self-abandonment. I'm just taking a carefree stroll now that annoying Aunt Eva has finally kicked the bucket. Everyone else is just making too big a deal out of it. Of course, everyone's after the vast Yoshidomiya wealth I bear. They must think that becoming my guardian means they'll be able to do as they please with that wealth. Just how many people have tried to get close to me, acting like they want to be a substitute parent?
If you ever find that you're hurting, please talk with me, if it will help, okay? After all, I think of you as my own grandchild, Angie-chan. Really, you must believe me, I'm not after the money at all.
I'll say no, thank you for now. More importantly, let's return to what we were talking about.
Angie-chan, no matter how many times you ask, I am hiding nothing. The chairman was the only survivor on Rokkenjima that day, and she passed away without saying anything. And I myself know nothing. Everything is wrapped in darkness, you see.
This old gentleman was one of those leaders who had been entrusted with a business group Eva had built up after she passed away. The one he called chairman was the former chairman, Yoshidomiya Eva. Okay, I figured that. His company once had friendly ties with Hideyoshi's business, and he had had a close relationship with both Hideyoshi and Eva. For that reason, when Eva lost Hideyoshi, he became the only person to whom Eva might have let her true intentions slip. Whenever Eva's heart was torn by the loss of her family, whenever she took it out on Angie, he had acted as a buffer between the two, so although Angie didn't trust him, she found him a very easy person to question. I guess that's him.
That crime was... no, that accident. If I call it a crime, I'll get in trouble. I had the same questions about it as the public and the talk shows.
At the time of the accident, why was Aunt Eva in a place 2 kilometers away from the mansion all alone? Huh? And on the night of the storm,
back then Kinzo-san was unsure as to whom he should select to be his successor.
Officially, he decided on his son, Klaus-san, but he didn't have much trust in that man. So to fairly determine a successor from among his 4 siblings, he made this game-like test called the Riddle of the Epitaph.
Ostensibly, yes. Kinzo-san probably planned to make Ifa-san the successor from the beginning. He wanted to withdraw his own rule that the eldest son be the successor, and instead of Klaus-san, leave the family to the extremely diligent and brilliant Ifa-san.
I don't know. Didn't really sound like that. When we heard his opinion on Ifa being anything other than a good wife.
The new rule about giving the inheritance to the one who solved the Epitaph was probably nothing more than a farce to snatch the possession of successor away from Klaus-san.
What do you mean by farce?
There was no need for anyone to solve that Epitaph. Once it had been displayed for an appropriate amount of time, Kinzo-san could just call Ifa-san, whom he truly wanted to succeed him, and give her the answer. In other words, that itself would provide proof of her succession to the headship.
This isn't something they've brought up on the talk shows, is it?
Well, once you bring up the succession of the headship, conspiracies theories tend to rise to the surface. I'm no fool myself. I won't go out of my way to say things that could invite misunderstandings, you see.
This was his theory. At that time, the Ushiromiya family head, Kinzo, whose remaining life was announced to be short, was troubled by the problem of who was to succeed him. Normally, the successor would be fixed as the oldest son, Klaus, whom Kinzo had chosen himself. But in his later years, Kinzo began to think that Ifa would make a more fitting family head because Klaus was apparently an idiot. However, Kinzo, who was stubborn even against himself, was stymied by this title of successor that he'd already given to Klaus, and he'd searched for an official stance by which he could skip over Klaus and select Ifa as his successor. That official stance was the Riddle of the Epitaph. The primary successor was still Klaus, but there was a new rule saying that if someone appeared who could solve the riddle, they would be chosen as the successor to the headship. Oh, right. Then, on what would probably be his final family conference, Kinzo told Ifa the answer to that riddle himself. In short, it was the same as proclaiming that Ifa herself was the successor.
That day, Ifa-san was summoned by Kinzo-san, who revealed the answer to her, and so that she could succeed the headship, he called Ifa-san to the hidden mansion court on which only the head knew about.
And because Aunt Ifa arrived at the hidden mansion one step ahead, she escaped harm in that accident, you say. Maybe Aunt Ifa just killed everyone and made it look like an accident, so she could steal all of the wealth for herself, and maybe that's why only she escaped unharmed.
Well, that's what the papers are shouting about. However, I believe Ifa-san. I'd say there are several points that justify trusting her.
For example?
That ring of the Ushiromiya family head, which is on your finger now, Angie-chan.
Oh, she has it.
That ring is the only one of its kind in the world, which Kinzo-san had made specially. And the artisan who made it acknowledges that the object on your finger is without a doubt that ring.
The Ushiromiya family head's ring. That ring with a heft of gold and a one-winged seal on it had a diamond arranged on a pedestal and felt both sturdy and reminiscent of the dark hobbies of the rich. Kinzo had worn that on his finger without removing it even for a moment, except when he threw it out of the window and it was hit by thunder. Lightning, I mean. This man was saying that the fact Ifa had it proved that Kinzo had acknowledged her as the successor.
After all, Ifa-san certainly did have that ring, and if you take into consideration that Ifa-san actually was talented and that Klaus-han had made a fool of himself several times on the business scene, I cannot imagine that Ifa-san's story is completely made up.
Although there's the possibility that she murdered grandfather in order to steal that ring, then Aunt Ifa, using some kind of trick, massacred everyone and made it look like an accident.
Yes, it seems the papers were saying something about her massacring everyone with keeping all the wealth to herself as a goal. True, Ifa-san was a person capable of holding back nothing when she was determined to accomplish something, or she may have committed murder just once in her life if a chance for keeping all the Ushiromiya family wealth somehow presented itself. However, I don't think that happened.
So what's the second point that justifies your trust in her?
Ifa-san's family, Hideyoshi-san and George-kun. It might be difficult for you to believe all of a sudden, Angie-chan, but Ifa-san was a person who treasured family greatly.
True, part of me didn't want to believe it or acknowledge it, but I did understand vaguely. Aunt Ifa certainly had been a person who highly treasured her family. After all, the root of her twisted personality had been nothing more than the sadness of losing her beloved husband and son. After getting hit with her angry outbursts as she tried to distract herself from that pain, I have no feelings of sympathy at all, but it's not like I can't imagine how the incredible shock of losing her whole family must have changed her character. You're saying there's no way Aunt Eva, who loved her family, would throw away her husband and her son?
That's right. Even if Eva-san really was the culprit and massacred the entire family, making it look like an accident, she most certainly would have spared her husband and her son. She would quibble that by coincidence only her family had been in the hidden mansion. If Hideyoshi's son and George-kun had been safe, even I would probably suspect Eva-san. I truly cannot imagine that Eva-san's wailing at Hideyoshi's son's funeral was an act.
Sounds like both points so far are just circumstantial evidence. That isn't the same as physically proving Aunt Eva's innocence.
If you say that, then you're stuck right away. Eva-san was the only survivor, and she says that this is the truth.
But no one can prove her innocence.
Yes, that's right. And no one can prove that she committed a crime either. And the final point that justifies trusting her is the police. After all, it was such a flashy crime. The police were being pushed forward by a public in an uproar over conspiracy theories, so they must have investigated Eva-san thoroughly. It was easy to feel something unnatural about the claim that Eva had avoided the accident by coincidence, because she alone had escaped to a hidden mansion. Furthermore, at the time, Hideyoshi's company had been right in the middle of a takeover struggle, and in order to buy off the big stockholders, she'd wanted a large sum of cash. It shouldn't be too hard to find a motive there, but as a matter of fact, there had been nothing at all that implicated Eva as she went to the family conference. Nothing unnatural was found on her that could have been used to brutally murder her family and make it look like an accident. The servants who escaped harm by being off duty on that day also stated that they hadn't seen anything strange regarding anyone related to the event, Eva included. Putting all of that together, it could only be concluded that Shidomiya Eva had headed to Rokkanjima for a normal family conference without any change, and had encountered an accident. The police looked so intensely and they still couldn't find evidence that it was a crime. They reached that conclusion themselves. Doesn't this resolve the Rokkanjima suspicion?
It just means that the police couldn't find evidence that it was a crime, right? Yeah, it just means they were incompetent, maybe.
There's nothing I can say to counter that. It becomes a devil's proof.
What, now you've heard of devil's proof as well? Everybody seems to know about it these days.
To expose it as a crime, you would simply need to find evidence, but what could you possibly find to prove her innocence? It's impossible to prove a negative fact.
Did Aunt Eva commit a crime, or did she not? Because we can't find any materials that'll let us say for sure, the truth will remain a mystery. That's what you're saying, right?
That's it. Phrased in a manner you prefer, that's what it amounts to. It was impossible even for Eva-san to prove her own innocence. On that island, an unfortunate accident occurred, and Eva-san survived by chance. And we don't know what any more than that.
The police put the best man they had on the job, Detective Gumshoe. Well, that would certainly explain something.
In short, it all comes down to whether you believe the story of the only survivor Eva-san or not. I believed. The ring in her praiseworthy love for her family, and the tears she shed at the funeral. Taking all of that into consideration, I decided to believe her story.
But I don't believe. If she wanted to steal the ring, there were probably many ways for her to do it, and no one knows if her relationship with her family really was that good. No one can prove that tears at a funeral are real. Anyway, I hated Aunt Eva from the very beginning, so I don't even want to believe her.
How does one view the truth of the crime? You and I are on completely opposing sides. Even though the information we are given is exactly the same, we interpret it in completely different ways. This happens often in politics and business. The exact same enterprise will always be assessed in multiple different ways. Do you know why?
Why?
It's a question of whether one has love. Whether you feel love for someone or not completely changes how you view them. If a person you like gives to the poor, you respect them for it, right? But if someone you hate starts donating, you fiercely protest that it's a publicity stunt or that they are handing out favors. No matter what they do or don't do, you thank them if you have love and criticize them if you don't. And that's how the world works.
Can Aunt Eva be trusted or can't she? You're saying that's all that really matters.
Those who suspect her will probably take anything she does or doesn't do and truly see it as something unnatural. And works in reverse. As for me, I think that, barring certain extreme cases, truth may not exist in this world at all. No, even if truth does exist, whether you believe it or not is determinable whether you have love or not. Can you really call truth without certainty truth? Even if Aoife-san had been able to show physical proof that she had an alibi, would you have been able to believe it?
It's hard to counter that. I hate Aunt Eva, so I'll probably deny any information beneficial to her and interpret any neutral information in a negative way. In other words, the truth is already decided inside of me. So just what in the world is this truth that I'm still searching for, unsatisfied?
That's how it is. So no matter what you hear from me, since you still suspect Aoife-san after all this time, nothing will change. At the very least, if you were to grasp a piece of hitherto unknown information, I don't think you'd be able to reach the truth the way you are now.
So I can't reach the truth.
After all, no matter what kind of new information or proof you find, Angie-chan, it won't change your stance that Aoife-san is the culprit, right? So it's pointless to investigate anything more, because the truth inside you is already decided. However, if you stop assuming that to be the truth, if you wish to struggle further towards the deeper real truth, there is a single way. I believe I already mentioned it, but do you know what it is?
Ice cream? Is it love? I don't really know what you mean.
Right now, you're considering this under the assumption that Aoife-san is the culprit, but that's no different from looking at something with a single eye. With one eye, no matter how much you squint, you can't see an object in 3 dimensions, right? That's why we have another eye. And of course, it's in a different position from the first eye.
You're telling me to look at things based on the supposition that Aunt Eva isn't the culprit, or else that it was a real accident?
Yes, that's correct. When thinking about anything, you should always try to look at it from different perspectives. If you don't, you won't understand anything about what is real.
Oh God. Kinda looks like an old Jean-Claude Van Damme in the original images.
It's the same with newspapers. You can't see anything from the single viewpoint of a writer who wrote an article in a single newspaper. Sometimes you can only process information composedly and in 3 dimensions when you read multiple newspapers.
That's also why it's sometimes interesting to read comments in some newspaper articles, but you have to be careful what website you're on, because comments can also be very, very toxic and completely filled with misinformation. But if you have a website where you find, like, sophisticated comments, then it can be very interesting. It can be hard to find, but sometimes I have seen articles where below it, people would actually very eloquently and in a sophisticated manner and not hating on each other, bring up facts and counter arguments against and for what was written in the article, and you would suddenly have lots of different views on the same thing. That would usually be interesting, but as I said, it's quite difficult finding that on the internet. And yeah, also you can have echo chambers where I don't know, only the things that you want to believe will get reinforced. That's dangerous, isn't it?
Without love, the truth cannot be seen. Sounds nice.
Maybe he thought it interesting that such a flashy phrase would pop out of his mouth. For a while he laughed, looking pleased. At the same time he was telling me that he'd said everything he knew, and that it was about time to leave. I understood that and got to my feet.
I don't understand your feelings, Angie-chan. You should do as you like for a while until you're satisfied. You were 6 years old at the time. I understand how you must feel after losing family before you could even understand what it meant, and how you must still be unable to sort out your heart. You may learn the truth and you may not. It will make either one or the other, right? Aoife-san may be the culprit, and she may be a victim. I pray that you find the truth you believe in, Angie-chan. A journey at such a young age may prove to be a valuable experience.
Thank you very much. I'm truly sorry to be such a bother when you're so busy, Okonogi-san.
No trouble, no trouble. What are you going to do now?
Oh, sorry. Wrong button. Okay, I mean, his picture seems to make him a bit more likable. Maybe I shouldn't give him such a douchey, idiotic voice. Okonogi Tetsuro, a leading member of the Shidomiya group. Between the time of Eva's death and Angie succeeding her position, management of the group has fallen to core members like him in her stead. However, Angie has no desire to inherit that role, leaving the group on the brink of fracturing internally and putting Okonogi in a difficult position. He was once the president of a foodstuffs distribution company and had an intimate relationship with Hideyoshi's business. Because of that long-lasting association, Eva trusted him particularly, and he was appointed to an important post within the group. I don't know, first time I saw him, he looked like a... Especially with the weird face he was making at the beginning, he kind of looked like a... not very bright Yakuza.
So I kind of gave him a really stupid voice.
But maybe we'll have to think it over. Maybe he's going to be the future Rudolph. I don't have that many voices anyway. Especially when I'm a horse, like recently. Well, whatever works. I've made appointments with several specialists and people related to the crime, and I plan to go visit them.
I see. I hope you find an answer you can accept. Oh, did you hear that? Honking car. Love honking cars, man.
At that time, company president Okonogi's secretary came in, handing him a memo over his shoulder. That's canon now. He is a fan of honking cars. It's his favorite thing. He read it, then looked between it and my face.
Angie-chan, my apologies that this comes right after telling you that we're going on our journey, but I have some information you should learn in an ear to. It looks like you're in a bit of a nasty fix right now.
People after my money? This is why money's stupid.
Yeah, but if you sell off all of the wealth, trying to donate the whole sum to the public welfare, you'll make the eyes pop out of those people optimistic about the chances of your fortune.
Oh, the Sumadera family? Those guys act so proud like they're my guards or something. I haven't forgotten Aunt Eva. There's no way I'll put myself in the care of the Sumadera family. They probably want to, as Aunt Eva often threatened in the past, cut off my arms and legs, throw me in a warehouse, and suck the Ushidomiya family's wealth dry.
Apparently, a messenger from the Sumadera family's coming here. They're saying to hand you over. No, that they want to protect you.
A messenger, you say?
It's your aunt. Kiryu-san's younger sister. I believe she told me earlier that she thinks of you as a little sister.
She's gotta be joking. At least call me a granddaughter, you old fucking hag.
Judging from the context, it seems they have no wish to listen to Yoda's eyes. I have a car waiting in the parking lot 2 stories underground. And you know, it can honk. So go.
The Sumadera family's telling you to hand me over. Is it really okay to let me go?
You will definitely become something big in the future, Angie-chan. Let us call this a favor to be repaid upon your success. Go quickly, and honk for me.
After bowing silently and deeply, Angie left that place at a dash. After watching her leave, the female secretary straightened her glasses and whispered. So what was his name again? Okonogi Tetsuro. Oh, I can't remember that. The Sumadera family told us to stall her. Is it really alright to let her go?
We'd have stole her more than enough. If they still don't make it in time, that's their own fault. I told Angie-chan to run for it. I informed the Sumaderas that Angie-chan will be coming. Whether she's caught or not, I will not be blamed. Oh, some great honking out there. Everything in this world is love, you see. Don't worry, she'll escape. After all, that child's capable of leaping off a building to shake pursuers.
Okonogi looked down again through a crack in the blinds, muttering, nope, definitely couldn't do it. Angie wasn't a fool herself. She got off the elevator, but on the 3rd floor. That music is fucking intense, I love it. A taxi in the 2nd level of the basement? That's so niche and clean that I don't like it. It's probably better to refuse for now, but my enemies aren't fools either. They're probably waiting in the 1st floor lobby, as well as the underground parking lot. It's such a massive building. Instead of getting anxious and escaping outside, maybe it's better to stay inside and wait it out. No, that's useless. If they get their hands on a security room in a modern building like this, I'll have nowhere to run to. This entire building is like a massive dead end. The 3rd floor is the business floor. A young girl like me will clearly stick out. How about you, disguise yourself? Trying not to stand out any more than I had to, I walked at a brisk pace, searching for an emergency exit. It'd be perfect if that staircase was an outside one. I found the door to the emergency exit. Stick on a mustache. Yeah, especially with a huge tits. I'm sure that would not be suspicious at all. Could just picture her with a like fucking Monopoly mustache, and then she has like a monocle or something. Yes, my name is Angelus. The Wise. I live 3 streets across from here, and I really have to go now. Goodbye. I found the door to the emergency exit. After opening that heavy door, I found the outside staircase I hoped for. I bumped into a man who looked like an employee, skipping work and smoking a cigarette. After glaring at me, he quickly crashed out his cigarette and went away. It looked like there was no one below. If I'm gonna escape, now is my only chance. Or is it? Just when I thought that, a black car slid right under me and came to a sudden stop with an incredible squealing of the tires. Judging by the sound of tires, it seemed they had several other allies and that one of them had come here to block this path. Not bad, Aunt Kasumi. To think you'd even send a car to pick up your little sister when she's trying to get out through the emergency exit. Bam, bam, the doors of the car were forcefully opened and 3 black-suited men jumped out, looking up at the emergency staircase. Crap, our eyes met.
12, target found. Northwest side emergency stairs, 3rd floor, sensible. Angie-sama, try not to move from there. Forgive our roughness.
The 3 of them began to clamber up the emergency exit. They've already announced that they plan to be rough. This is pretty bad. As long as I don't stop breathing, they've probably been ordered to grab me no matter what, even if they've got to rip out one of my arms. Clank, 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 clank. Their heavy white footsteps became a helix and began to rise from the lower floors, getting closer. This is well written once again. I can totally picture this and almost hear it. In the entrance lobby of the building, a woman with 7 black-suited guards behind her advanced at a leisurely pace. Seeing this ostentatious entrance, the security guards for the building ran after them, asking if they had an appointment. How typical of Tokyo people. Don't you understand the status of the person you are talking to without having to say your name?
My apologies. At our company, guests are to take a security... Back down, scum. I came because I was called by your president. Call Ogonogi Tetsuro here. To think you would call me here and then not welcome me. How typical of Tokyo people.
Who the fuck are you? Are you that... What was it? Kasumi? I guess?
My apologies. Welcome to the Shidomiya group. Sumadera Kasumi-san.
It is. Hello, I was right-clicking. Daughter of the declining noble family, Sumadera, Ushidomiya Kiria's younger sister. She despises her sister and by extension Angie as well. Well, isn't that a new thing? That has never happened before to Angie, right? She's the opposite of the freewheeling person Kiria once was and holds appearance in high regard, possessing a strong ambition for philanthropy. However, this is all just a craving for the limelight caused by the complex she has towards her sister. There are several opposing factions in the Sumadera family, and they're constantly engaged in a secret feud over who will control the vast wealth Angie holds. With his secretary behind him, Okonogi dashingly appeared from the elevator. Oh, damn it. Sorry. Even though both of them wore bold smiles, they were wrapped in a tension reminiscent of the smell of gunpowder.
Where is Angie? I came to greet that adorable daughter of my big sister's. Strict observance of time is our motto here at the Shidomiya group. The former chairman herself said that those who can't keep time can't keep contracts. You called me all the way to Tokyo and this is all you have to show for it? You let her go, didn't you? Please, she escaped from us. We did stall her for quite some time, but unsurprisingly, she did eventually smell a rat. Of course, this wouldn't have been a problem at all if you had arrived in time, Sumadera-san. Ah, these provincials and their loose concept of time. What was that? What did you say to me?
Oh, I guess that was still him.
These provincials and their loose concept of time.
What was that? What did you say to me? You couldn't sense any of Kiria's open frankness in Kasumi's face. She wore the arrogance of the ancient Sumadera family towards the ruined Oshidomiya family, as well as pride, because she didn't want anyone to notice that her family was declining so much that they couldn't ignore the Oshidomiya family's wealth. Even at a glance, it was easy to understand why Angie hated her aunt so deeply. She couldn't stand even a slight insult, and though she still smiled, her eyebrow twitched. At that time, the black-suited man behind Kasumi whispered to her,
Angie-sama has been found. We are currently dealing with her.
Oh, I'm
I'm glad we made it in time. Thank you, Okologi. It seems I can finally take my mischievous niece home. I've waited so long to talk with that girl in my tea room, with all of the torture tea tools prepared. Clack, clack, clack. As the violent sound drew a helix, it rushed up at me from below, threatening to swallow me up. Of course, even if I fight, there's no way I'll be able to win. And yet running into the building would be like jumping into a dead end of my own accord. Couldn't you just jump down onto the car? My enemies will increase in number with time. I mean, okay, it's the 3rd floor, maybe not. If I don't do something here and now, I won't have any more chances to escape. Then 3 muscular black-suited men came into view below me. 1, 2, 3. 3 people. In other words, everyone who had gotten out of the car. If there had been just one of them, I might have been able to drop-kick them or something and smash them in the head, which might work out, but it really would be impossible with 3 of them. Wait, 3? If there's just 3, I should be able to make it. I can do it. Take a deep breath.
What? You idiot, stop! Look out!
Did she actually jump onto the car?
01 calling 12. Is the package secure? We received a response. What happened? Respond. She's crazy, damn it!
Yeah. Oh. See, that worked out perfectly, didn't it? There was just the 3 of them after all. That was what I thought. If everybody got out of the car, that means nobody's down there anymore. So if she just waited for everybody to get up to where she is and then jumps down, they all have to run back down again. Well, she can already get away. However, if it was really high, I thought maybe that was not possible after all, but it seems it was. I've already tried that once from a higher place. I knew I'd be able to jump down just 3 floors. That's still crazy. It's a good thing the car they came in was right beneath me. Even if it wasn't as pleasant as a trampoline, it broke my fall, a little gently, a little roughly. How rude, you didn't have to dent that much. The roof of the car broke my fall, leaving a massive dent around my body. Car roofs are surprisingly delicate. I don't think it's because of my weight. Apparently the 3 people on the stairs hadn't planned on me jumping down. It seemed they now realized that they'd been outwitted and they were rushing down the stairs. See, exactly what I pictured. I've got to run and escape when I have the chance. Can you drive? I moved my body, making clunking sounds on the car roof. But I'd been naive. Of course they wouldn't all rush up the stairs without leaving one person behind. Damn it. There was one black-suited man left in the driver's seat of the car that had broken my fall. He stuck his head out the window, and when he realized what had fallen on him, he jumped out. In a rush, I jumped off the roof, but the black-suited man's reaction was really fast. Either there was a massive reward for capturing me, or there'd be some harsh punishment in store for them if they let me get away.
15 secured.
Don't touch me like that, let go. I was mercilessly held down against the asphalt. I was being crushed face down, covered and pressed upon from above. It was a hold without a trace of elegance, but it was extremely practical and left me no room for resistance. I tried to push back with both hands, searching for a way to resist, but I was being pushed down solidly and I couldn't even tear myself off the asphalt. Then another car came, squealing its tires as it slid to a sudden stop. Is it all over now? The man that had been crushing me let out a sharp cry. He was yelling straight into my ear, making my left ear ring. What in the world? Along with the black suit guy, I fell with a thunk. After landing things up, the first thing I saw was an arm stuck out right in front of my eyes.
Amakusa, what are you doing here?
Who are you? What? Who the hell are you now? I don't even know what voice to give him.
Let's talk about that after we've lost them. To the car, quickly, lady.
Amakusa grabbed my arm, easily pulled me up, spinning me around with himself as the center of gravity. Maybe he should be like more... Let's talk about that after we've lost them. Oh. No, I have no idea. I'm probably just going to give him a million different voices. Just when I thought I was a little like a dance, he flung me through the open door into the driver's seat. I climbed over the handbrake and slid into the passenger seat. Pushing me in, Amakusa also got into the driver's seat. Since we suddenly accelerated while we were still on all fours, I had to kick and struggle around on the chair for a while, like a turtle that's been flipped over. Amakusa checked the rear view mirror of the cars in pursuit, but he flew into the artery of the big city without lowering his speed in the slightest. Holy shit, it's already 10:15, almost. We stowed our way between cars one after another, just like a chase scene in some action movie. I was shaken by this horrible driving and had trouble sitting back down. You hurt, lady? I'm fine. Humans are surprisingly durable. Next time I try to escape. And next time I try to escape a downward moving elevator, I'll jump out a window instead. Huh? Oh, I guess that was a hobby of yours, lady. Still, I'd recommend you grab a parachute next time. Sure, if I remember to do it after leaping. Yeah, cool. He smacked the steering wheel, guffawing. Need an explanation for this flippantly talking man? His name is Amakusa Juza. He was originally one of Aunt Eva's guards. Didn't she start to hate him because he chatted too much? He was much younger than the rest of the guards, but contrary to his outward flippancy, he had hopped from the first airborne of the JSDF to the French Foreign Legion. What the hell? Placing himself in overseas private military companies and high-class security companies, one after another, making for a pretty incredible and unique career. True, but I heard he deserted both the JSDF and the French Foreign Legion, and that he'll be arrested if he enters France again. Gee, I wonder why. Both of these flippant episodes were very typical of him. The guards were sternly told not to chat with me unnecessarily, but he came and took a pass at me, didn't he? Aunt Eva was apparently particularly put off by that, and had supposedly dismissed him shortly before she died. It's been a while since I've heard that carefree tone. What happened after you got fired? I was coaching some people in Blackwater. When I came back to the country during my time off, President Okanogi offered me a high wage. So you deserted again. I wonder how a man like that can be useful for anything. Doesn't count as desertion as long as I come back by next week. I talked with him yesterday. I was told that some troublesome people might come to call on you, lady. Sorry, that turned out to be exactly right. Mine have probably come up since I know you, and I've got lots of crazy experience. Thanks to you, it looks like I'm in for a happy vacation plus some pocket money. So, Okanogi-san employed you as my guard? He probably wants to buy some gratitude from you, lady. After I got fired, I was indebted to President Okanogi in various ways. He's got some dirt on me here and there, and now I can't say no to him. Seems that getting indebted to Okanogi-san can be pretty costly later on. So where are you planning on taking me? Anywhere. I'm employed until the weekend. Anything after that will cost you extra. How much per day? I'll take 50,000 plus expenses. If you stop cracking jokes, I'll double it. The period of employment isn't fixed yet. It might take several weeks. Well, that'll be tough. I'll have to call my boss to get an extension on my vacation. More than anything, I want to investigate that day. Oh, is this about Rockinji? Exactly. What happened on that island 12 years ago? I want to investigate it with my own hands to my satisfaction. Did you really expect to find anything new investigating something that old? True, but this is a journey for my own self-satisfaction. Once that's over, I'll just throw my hands up and go over to the Sumadera family. Didn't Aunt Kasumi say something about how she wanted to serve me some matcha? Maybe she'll serve me tea as I kneel on sharp wooden blocks, clutching stones or something. Damn, that sounds freaky. My apologies, we lost sight of them. A single man thought to be an associate assisted in her escape. Judging by his possession of a stun gun and his driving skills, he's no amateur. I see, thank you. What a shame, Okanogi. Shouldn't I take this as your answer? Letting her get away was your blunder. It has nothing to do with me. I do wish to prepare some matcha for you as well in the near future. The next time you're in Kyoto, please stop by. I'm going. Oh, are you leaving already? I gotta offer you some with Chazuke first. What is Chazuke again? Oh, I think I know. With her back still facing Okanogi, she laughed softly, but with an increasingly shrill and hateful tone, using that as a substitute for a sharp parting remark. Just as she stopped laughing, her features suddenly changed to look like a demon's. But because her back was facing him, Okanogi couldn't see that expression. Not necessarily. I think she has already quite made it quite abundantly clear how not nice she is, to put it in easy terms. Okanogi watched her go, laughing coolly. His secretary whispered over his shoulder. Are you sure about this? The Lady Angie's our company's primary stockholder, but the Sumadera family becomes a guardian.
I get it. But you know, we're the world-famous aRdWs. We can't let them take us out lightly. Still, it looks like that guy managed it pretty well. All that's left is to let Angie-chan do as she pleases. I'm counting on you, Amaka-san. Kasumi-sama, the escaping car was a rental. The license plate they displayed was a fake. We're clearly dealing with a pro. They'll probably abandon the car. Pursuit will be difficult, should we have the police chase them.
Yes. Shall we have them search for our runaway daughter? They are getting paid with our taxes, so the police must be of some use every once in a while. Ho 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 ho. When I left the mansion, I boldly told Mother to leave it to me, didn't I? Do you intend to embarrass me further? It looks like it might be better for me to serve some matcha for everyone at once, doesn't it? Our underground tea room is cramped, so you'll have to wait in line while we carry out the body parts.
No, we will search with everything we have.
Oh, she really is a cute kid, just like Nissan. Especially that way she freewheels and does as she pleases. Now I can't see anything but Nissan. I'm truly looking forward to it. If only I could invite Nissan's daughter to my tea room, right? Ho 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 ho.
What a pleasant person.
The Sumadera family sure moved quickly. Did Okonogi-san sell me out?
You're joking. He's my client. If he'd sold you out, he wouldn't have hired me, right?
I guess that's true.
Ah, so that's why you got off the elevator at the 3rd floor.
Him having a car waiting in the underground parking lot was just too convenient. I figured Okonogi-san sold me out. Though I guess by now it's impossible to prove whether there was an ambush set up in the parking lot or not.
I see that poor president guy. Looks like you don't trust him a bit, lady. That car in the basement was mine.
Huh? Who was talking about you, Amakusa?
I freaked when the elevator came and was empty. I wonder what would have happened by now if I hadn't been listening in on their radio.
So what's going on? If I had obediently believed Okonogi-san and gone to the parking lot, there would have been no need for me to do that jump off the 3rd floor?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, it turned out okay in the end.
What the hell? If I hadn't suspected President Okonogi, I could have easily escaped without getting caught in a tough spot. President Okonogi might have sold me out. No, since paranoia told me that it was better to assume that he had sold me out, I supposed and concluded that he sold me out. Because of my inability to believe in him, regardless of his truth, my truth became he sold me out. I thought back on President Okonogi's words. Can you really call truth without certainty truth? Truth can change completely depending on whether you have love or not. In the end, perhaps truth itself doesn't exist. There are as many interpreted truth as there are people who speak of the truth. If I can't accept something that fluid as truth, where is the truth that I really want to find exist? And is it something I'll be able to see with my eyes? Even if someone sticks the truth right there in front of me and says it's the truth, I might not be able to see it. Without love, it cannot be seen, huh? This fragment of yours is very lively. It doesn't bore me. You told me something. You commanded me to search for the truth of 12 years ago. But there's something I'm not getting. What's that? What is truth? There are as many truths as there are people. There are as many interpretations as there are people. And those can be twisted by opinions and changed indefinitely. Is truth really that unfixed and vague? That's right. Truth is unfixed. It can be like a particle or like a wave, and it can hold conflicting forms at the same time. You are free to believe that the cat in the box is alive or dead.
Oh, just for you, it's back, Christian.
But the truth is very delicate. It can change its appearance just by being observed. You're talking about stuff like Schrödinger's cat box? Nonsense. Meow. If you open the box, you learn the truth. Discussion about what happens before you open it is just an armchair theory. That's right, and yet in order to deny that abstract theory, you need to open the box. It is impossible to negate any idea about the contents of a box that cannot be opened. This is what truth is. As long as truth isn't denied, it keeps its form. That's right, as long as truth isn't observed, it keeps its form. In other words, if it isn't exposed, any reckless statement can suffice as truth. Yes, even if they contradict each other, endless ideas can exist as truth at the same time without being negated. So even something as screwed up as my family being captured by the Rakanjima witch and shut up 12 years ago for all eternity can exist as truth as long as we don't know what happened 12 years ago? This witch called Beatrice forcibly made room for endless imaginings in the Rakanjima of 12 years ago, enveloping all of it inside a cat box. Everything inside the unopenable box is true. That's right, we don't know what happened on that island, so it becomes endless. That's assuming no one opens it up. I just have to wrench it open. But that box was closed up 12 years ago, and I don't even know where it is. Even if I visit Rakanjima, just what can I learn about what happened 12 years ago on that desolated island? Who knows? I wonder what you could learn. This is something that can only be done by the person who is able to walk around freely in the world of 1998, 12 years in the future. The final witch, Angie Beatrice. Beatrice's game board lasts 2 days, from October 4th, 1986 to the 5th. In other words, you're a piece who can move freely outside your game board. And even Beatrice cannot influence this future that lies outside the game board. If you say it like that, it sounds like I'm a pretty overpowered piece. The future of 12 years later in which you are placed certainly is distant. However, the further a piece is placed in the future, the stronger power it holds. I told you, didn't I? The truth changes its appearance when it is observed. Come to think of it, I heard something like that once. Even if one day all of a sudden a star in the constellation Centaurus were to explode, the light from that explosion would have to cross 4.4 light years, so it would take it 4.5 years to reach the Earth. Yeah, that's a long time. That's right. In other words, even if the sun in Centaurus has already died, people on Earth won't be able to perceive that fact for 4.5 years. Because no method of perception exists that is faster than the speed of light. When we learn that the sun in Centaurus has exploded, we Earth people will paint over our history of 4.5 years ago with a new truth. We will revise history with a new fact, that it exploded 4.5 years ago. However, for the 4.5 year period until we learn that, despite the fact that it has already died, the mistaken truth that the sun of Centaurus still exists will be able to exist as truth. The truth of the future wins against the truth of the past. That's right. By itself, the Rakanjima accident gave rise to nothing but suspicion of a conspiracy involving aRdW and the Yoshidomiya family assets. But later on, it was dramatized and linked to the occult, and the conspiracy was painted over by the legend of the witch. Even though it was clambered over as a conspiracy at the time of the crime, later on, strange occult theories which claimed that it was the work of the witch ran rampant and began to paint over the truth of October 5th, 1986. The conspiracy theories will probably be forgotten over time, and only the more bizarre, impressive witch theory will continue to remain a superstition, eventually covering up the conspiracies. That's right. The false truth that exists before the light from an exploding star reaches Earth is... The false truth that exists before the light from an exploding star reaches Earth is almost like the conspiracy theory, which is a human theory. The wine bottle with a letter in it that drifted ashore several years later, the message bottle, painted over that theory and made things return to the occult theory, which is a witch's theory. The wine bottle. Wasn't there something about a wine bottle in one of the first credit rolls? I think it was the first episode, wasn't it? That a wine bottle was... I have to revisit that, but now that she mentions the wine bottle with a letter in it, that rings a bell. I'll have to look at that again. End of episode 1, a wine bottle drifted ashore, yes, says Everin. I have to look at that again in detail. That's right, a witch didn't exist during 1986. The witch took control of Rakanjima because she was observed several years later by us humans of the future, thanks to that message bottle. A small revision is necessary. The witch could have existed even during 1986, as one of many endless possibilities that can exist. Certainly, she disappeared if she were observed, so she curls up inside the cat box. That's what makes the message bottle so nasty. The witch tried to get out of the box. She made it so that she'd be observed, weeding out possibilities that conflicted with the witch theory. In other words, to make it impossible to negate her, she negated all possibilities other than the witch theory. What the hell? So in other words, Beatrice satisfied the devil's proof with a frontal attack, and that was part of the witch's plan from the beginning. The message bottle is information observed in the future after 1986. It cannot be observed by Beatrice or Battler. It can only be observed by Angie Beatrice. I really didn't want to investigate the message bottle. After all, reading that would be like listening to the witches say. I thought the witch theory was just a crazy fantasy, so I thought of it as nothing more than a waste of time. But Okonogi-san told me, you can see things in 3 dimensions with only one eye. You mean that while looking at it from the viewpoint of denying witches, you must also look at it from the viewpoint of accepting witches? That's a correct way of thinking. The number of viewpoints is like a denominator. If you have one viewpoint, the mystery in the numerator doesn't decrease in the slightest. However, the more your number of viewpoints increases, the more the mystery begins to be divided. I understand. There was a message bottle that washed up on a neighboring island several years after the crime that passed into the hands of a dilettante. Dilettante? I made an appointment with him just in case. I was able to hear Aunt Eva say from Okonogi-san. Next up is the witches say. Why don't I listen to Beatrice's say? And that's where we go back to the island. Yay. But that's also where we'll stop for today. It's 10:30. Still have a bit of house stuff to do. But now I'm really... Oh, man. It's kind of a nice cliffhanger again, because I was actually expecting to have some island stuff today, but instead we got this Angie-san stuff, which was also very interesting, and once again, totally not what I expected, but it seems to be what the game keeps doing over and over again. But I really liked it. It was very well written, and like the whole escape scene and all that was pretty cool, with intense music and all that, and new characters, and I don't even know anymore where anything of it is supposed to lead to, but I mean, that's another fun part of it, isn't it? So, I'm not complaining that we got this side story, if you want to call it that. It's not, since it has its own page, it doesn't look like it's just going to be a side story. Probably going to change back and forth between these things some more, and there might even be a lot more characters here as well. So, yeah, but anyway. Seems like a good place to stop, and a nice kind of cliffhanger, since now we really go back to the mansion, and we don't do it today. But yeah, tomorrow I'll probably be shopping again, so I don't know if I can have a stream tomorrow. Might have to go shopping a bit later again than usual, so probably not a stream, I don't know, we'll see. But I hope to have at least 1 or 2 more before Sunday, we'll see. As usual, I'll just let you know, and you have to check for my Twitch notifications. And we'll see. I will decide spontaneously, depending on how available I am and how busy or not busy I am. So, for now, good night, and see you then.